A very good evening to all the viewers of GETI, Global Education Training Institute. I'm your host, Sayed Hanif Ahmed, for today's session. A warm welcome to you all for today's session by Mr. Dnyanesh sir. He is a founder, Ideas Monitoring. He is from Mumbai, Maharashtra. Actually, his topic is very interesting and it will be very useful to all the viewers of today's session. Learning without teaching. By listening this name only, I will understand something new and something very interesting. What is that excitement I am feeling that how without teaching, how we learn? So sir will be giving detailed information about this and how to shape the minds of next generation of students. Inspire leaders of today's for disruptive change in education. Sir, welcome, sir. Over to you. Sir, please continue with your topic.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Hanif. Thank you, Giri, for this platform. Yes, the topic which I am discussing today, learning without teaching, is controversial to a point where on an education platform I am saying that you don't need to teach to learn. Uh, However controversial it may seem, you need to first understand that teaching does not, learning rather, does not happen within the confines of a school, the confines of an office, or the confines of any institution. Learning happens each and every second of your life. Every time any senses of your body, your eyes, your nose, your ears, everything, to each and every sense of your body, you are receiving information from the environment and responding to it, reacting to it, and learning as you go through life. Experiences which we have every day are the ones responsible for our learning. So, Mr. Hanif, could we have our slideshow, please? So, I'll take you through my concept, which I am sharing over here. So, to start off, let me question you on what do you think is learning? What happens when a toddler tries to walk? When a child is trying to walk, he gets up, he falls. He gets up again, he falls again. Have you ever seen somebody or a child who has gotten scared of falling and have stopped trying to walk? On an average, I think a child will fall at least 1000 times before he will take his first steps to walk independently. 1000 times a 6 month old, 8 month old, 1 year old child tries something, fails, and yet keeps doing it. If the same thing is done by a 20-year-old, by a 30-year-old, we'll say, oh my God, what courage, what commitment. After 1000 tries he did it. We will commend him. We will make him a hero. When that 6 month old child does it, it is considered natural. Why is that considered natural? Because learning is natural. You don't have to be taught to learn. There are things can be taught. There are various ways in which teaching can influence learning, can affect learning. But teaching is required for learning is the biggest myth which an education industry is maybe knowingly or unknowingly propagating. So, Hanif, Can we have the slideshow, please? While the slideshow is starting, um, let us also discover this. How do you think children make friends? How do you reach an office? Uh, Mr. Hanif, are you starting the slideshow? I'm not sure if I have him or I've lost him. Anyways, we'll continue. So, children to make friends, we don't teach children, okay, you go, you say XYZ dialogue to somebody, that will befriend them. You don't need to do that. Children just go, meet the people, and they become friends. When we walk into the office space, we get a sense of the culture of the office. We get a vibe of what is happening, what is doable, what is not doable, what is acceptable, what is not acceptable in that particular workspace. So we can go to the next slide. So in that workspace, whatever nuances are there, whatever systems are in place, I'm talking about the social systems. Obviously, they have their own training, they have their own SOPs, work. Who are the people who will get your work done? Who are the people who are kind? Who are the people who are short-sighted? Who are the people who are willing to help? All these things are discovered not by somebody coming and teaching you. You just are able to get a sense of things around you and are able to connect and learn from small gestures, from the tone in everybody's sound, the facial expressions which the people make, and we keep absorbing that information and concluding from that what should be our next steps in order to move ahead in this particular environment. When children are playing, they realize who's the one who's going to support me, who's the one who may or may not support me, who's the one who's out to hurt me. Children know it intuitively. You don't need to teach social skills to a child for him to understand who's a friend, who's a foe, who's a friend, who is irrelevant, or who is disinterested in you. So these social skills come to you very naturally without being taught. So can we have the next slide? So we really learn a whole lot more than ever taught to us. If we have been taught, say, 10 things, there are at least 100 different things which we have learned by ourselves. So we learn much more than is ever taught to us. Next slide, please. I love this quote. Education is an admirable thing. It is well to remember from time to time nothing that is worth learning can be taught. Now, nothing that is worth learning. This is a quote by Oscar Wilde. Now, worth learning, when we say, it really changes from person to person, from society to society, to community to community. If you ask a saint, if you ask a leader what is worth learning, I'm sure nobody's going to tell you maths is worth learning or science is worth learning, computers is worth learning. They say empathy is worth learning, uh, love is worth learning, care is worth learning, humanity is worth learning, brotherhood is worth learning, maintaining peace is worth learning, speech is worth learning. All these things which are worth learning actually cannot be taught. You cannot teach somebody empathy. You can demonstrate empathy. You could elicit empathy, but you cannot teach somebody to become empathetic. It comes from within. It comes from observing the environment. It comes from understanding what people like. It comes from our own interpretation interpretation of the outside world using our senses, and sometimes even what we call the sixth sense is also used. How much of it is used, how much of it is a conscious decision, how much of it is a subconscious decision, that is for philosophers and psychologists to decipher. I am not going to do that. But what is important is what is worth really learning is not something which should be. That's the key. Next slide, please. So, what is the outcome of, sorry, how do we actually learn? I have basically three pathways. There are many psychologists, many behavioral experts who have multiple opinion over three. I have broadly classified into three main styles. Behaviorism, which is the stimulus and response method. The typical story, for anybody who has done a little bit of psychology will know, you uh, decide that every day before giving food to a dog, you will ring a bell. You ring a bell, give food to the dog. Next day, you ring a bell, you give food to the dog. Go on doing it for 4 5 days. Then you, after 5 days, you just ring a bell. You don't even give food to the dog. The dog will still start salivating. The dog will still start behaving as if he's going to get food. This is stimulus response behavior. Rewarding when things go right, reprimanding when things go wrong. When this kind of reward reprimand cycle goes, it's called a stimulus response behavior of the individual. It sounds very robotic, very monotonous. This is exactly how most of our systems work at work, in your school, in your society, in your house. Most children are exposed a lot to this stimulus response kind of behaviorism. This, through this system, children learn I should do this, I should not do this. It is okay to do that, it is not okay to do that. For a child who is brought up in a pure vegetarian conservative family, may think that he taking a bite of non-vegetarian food will cause havoc, will really change who he is, will be world altering. On the other hand, somebody who's born in an environment where consuming non-vegetarian food is a norm, is not considered taboo, or is not considered bad, and is considered a very everyday process. For him, a bite of non-vegetarian food is not going to create that kind of response. So both of them are human beings. Both of them have the same genetic makeup. Yet one person's response to non-vegetarian food is extremely different from the other person. This is a stimulus response behaviorism which is being imbibed in the child. That is what he has learned from the uh, stimulus response system which his parents, his community has created around the child. Next, socio-cultural. Sometimes you don't actually have to do things. You watch others do things. When you watch others do things, when you watch the response or when you watch the reaction which is happening to others because of things which they are doing, from there you learn a few things as well. For example, when criminals are punished, society thinks that by looking at those criminals who are punished, the rest of the society will get scared and they will not commit crime. To some extent, it does help, but I really don't think we have been punishing criminals since centuries, and yet crime keeps happening. So I'm sure that kind of behavior is also not really working. And last, and the most strongest form of learning happens in adversity. When you're pushed against the wall, when all of us were pushed against the wall during this lockdown, all of us either fought or we ran. People in cities ran to their villages. People who did not have a choice to run anywhere else, they fought. They stood there, they did whatever they needed to do. People who lost their jobs, people who lost their livelihood, people who lost near and dear ones, all of them fought. And in their need to fight, they learned few skills, they learned few principles, and they moved on effectively, changing something inside them permanently. And that exactly is what we call learning, learned behavior, learned technique, learned skill set. So these are the broad pathways through which I understand human beings learn. Now let's look at teaching. What does teaching exactly do? So next slide. So if you look at teaching, you will realize that most of the things taught in a classroom setting are either completely forgotten, or if you do remember something, most of it is irrelevant from your day-to-day life. I'm sure there are many things from your school which you remember very well. The company of your friends, some good teacher who has always encouraged you, some good events where you've been rewarded, you felt good about yourself. All those memories are wonderful. All those memories have shaped your childhood, have shaped who you are. Chances of a person who's not a teacher remembering most of the things which have been taught in school is very, very rare. So if you are not going to remember, or rather, you don't even need to remember the things which were taught in school to you. How much of the teaching which we are doing in school is relevant? Outcome of this is so many basic example which I've given over here is square root of 5. How many of us remember to calculate the square root of 5 manually? We have a calculator, we can get the answer. So the things which can be done by machines, why do we humans keep trying to learn to do those things? Why not invest time and energy in learning things which machines can never do, like how to comfort others, how to cooperate with others, how to collaborate with others, how to be a better communicator, be a better speaker, become a writer. That so these are the things which machines cannot do. Calculations machines can do. So why is it necessary for each and every person to spend so much time of their lives doing mathematics, which they have hated? They have really lost a significant part of their childhood to mathematics. Can you imagine that we have forced mathematics down the throats of so many innocent children who hated it, which has hurt their childhood? Is it worth it when they grow up, when they look back at their childhood and the time which they spent in trying to learn that mathematics? How many of us actually feel, no, I could have done something better with that time? There is a very, very strong reason why these things happen. And I'll get to that reason shortly. Now I would like to bring to your notice something beautiful through sports. The next slide, please. What is the perfect hybrid of teaching and learning? Imagine the greatest sportsman of all time. I have given some examples over here. Sachin Tendulkar, whose coach was Ramakant Achrekar. Ramakant Achrekar does not have huge records to his name. Yet, he is Sachin Tendulkar's coach. Does that mean he knows what is the best way to bat on a cricket field? Maybe, maybe not. But he was able to make Sachin Tendulkar one of the greatest batsmen. Satpal Singh, he was a renowned wrestler during his time. Position to which he pushed Sushil Kumar to win two Olympic gold medals for India speaks volumes about how much more he could give Sushil Kumar than he could do for himself. Coach Vishweshwar Nandi, he is the coach of Deepa Karmakar, who's a gymnast. Now, India did not have gymnastics to a very large extent. We did very little gymnastics, and because of which we did not have a very strong ecosystem to teach gymnastics. Now, Deepa Karmakar learned something from her coach, which her coach has never done. Deepa in Rio Olympics did Rodunova. Rodunova is called the vault of death. It is a double flip and landing on your feet in gymnastics. I would have shared the video, but that is not very relevant. You can always go online and search Rodunova or the vault of death. That is what Deepa Karmakar attempted at the Rio Olympics. Now, I am sure the coach has never done that vault, and yet he was able to get her to do that vault, to get her to do that impossible, dangerous, and extremely difficult maneuver in order to get a bronze Olympics. She did not really win the gold. She attempted because she could not execute it perfectly for a better score, so she won the bronze. But it was courageous of her and her coach to even attempt such a move. How did the coach, who did not know the move himself, do that? 1999 was the first time this move was done. Since then, 2016 was the first time Geeta was able to successfully do that move. There have been one or two people who tried to do it, but nobody has been uh, perfectly successful. So it's been 20 years and still people have not been able to do it. It's why very much they're available on the internet. Everybody can know, everybody can see. There are thousands of coaches who must have tried to teach. Here is the beauty of teaching and learning. Here is where you realize that not everything can really be taught. There are some things which you have to just put your head down, grind it day in and day out, and learn all by yourself. Coach over here is only a mentor, only a support who will keep motivating you, who may observe some things from outside as a third person perspective and give you ideas. That does not mean by any chance that the coach himself is an expert in that and can teach you that. So over here, the teacher is biggest learner in the ideal classroom. So if this was an ideal classroom, if we consider Deepa and her coach to be part of an ideal teacher-student relationship, then the teacher, the coach, learned a whole lot while trying to teach her a difficult move. So teacher is usually the biggest learner who comes out of a classroom. So I started off by saying that learning does not require teaching. Now I am almost speaking the polar opposite. Teaching actually causes learning. How how many times have somebody approached you, some youngster, junior of yours, student of yours, somebody who looks up to you and expected you to teach them something, and you have no clue how to do that. You start off on a journey to try to teach something which you barely know. That is a time when you realize, as a teacher, you will have to deliver the learning, to be able to deliver the learning to that student, you will have to raise your standards to a much, much higher level. You cannot just barely learn it. You will have to know it inside out to be able to deliver that to that student. And when you learn inside out and you deliver it to that student, the biggest gainer, the biggest winner over there is the teacher. The teacher learns, and the teacher learns immensely in that process. It's a beautiful journey. It's a wonderful experience. And those who have not done it, I would definitely recommend go ahead and go and teach something to someone what about which you know nothing at all. Do research, put in your effort, take your back, go learn by yourself, and then go and teach. While even attempting to teach, you will end up learning much more than anybody could have ever taught you. Every teacher basically acknowledges that he or she is a facilitator and somebody who knows better than the pupil. All corporate training sessions usually happen that way. Good trainers, good facilitators know that I may not be the smartest person in the room. My job is to ensure that the smartest people in the room come up with great ideas and I'm able to toss those ideas around and make something amazing out of it. Imagine if school teachers also start thinking this way. We are mere facilitators and students have an intellect through which they can definitely do something wonderful. I am supposed to just help them achieve those wonderful things by directing them, nudging them in the right direction. Unfortunately, most teachers have this feeling around them that they are the best person in the class. They know everything, and they are the ones who should be revered, who should be looked upon, and they will deliver to the class. That is the feeling which takes away, steals the learning from the teacher herself itself. The teacher loses out on an opportunity to learn from the pupils. If you are a good teacher, you will be a lifelong learner from your students and things which your students bring out. You will be amazed at how your journey will be. And you will enjoy each and every session of your training, of your teaching, of your coaching, whatever you would like. Please be open. Please become a facilitator rather than a teacher. Friends do it. So when friends meet each other, when friends are trying to uh, teach things to each other, one of them does not act as if he knows much better than the other one. He just tries to uh, help the other one go in the footsteps of which he or she has gone earlier. I tried this, you try it, see what we get. Let's try it together. Okay, you think this way it will work? Let's try that together. So they are actors in the journey of learning. All teachers need to be those partners. And when they are learning for the pupil and for the teacher, will go to the next level. The malice of mass education. Now, this is something which has become really popular, and people love demonizing the education system. I will touch upon it a little, but I am not trying to demonize it. It was a necessity to create standardization, to be able to communicate, comprehend, transmit information for industrialization, for the industries which were supposed to be run. If you wanted workers to be able to work in a certain way, then needed standards. If standards were not there, society wouldn't have functioned. That is the reason mass education was introduced along with industrialization to create workers, servicemen, or a workforce to cater to that industrialization. And a lot of coercive backing was done to this particular concept. A major cultural change was brought about. People were told you were not supposed to join your parents' business, you were not supposed to learn your parents' skills, but you have to come into a common education system where we will teach you something that will ensure that you will become slaves for life. The proper education system would allow a little independence independent growth and teach some standardization to children. But unfortunately, the present education system has stretched it a bit too far, and we have literally killed the curiosity of children. And children can no longer learn freely the way they should be. So now, given that all these things exist, what do we do moving forward? To become a better learner, mass education is unavoidable. So what do? We allow learning at home or learning away from school in a better manner. We do not force things on them. We do not uh, give them an instruction set. We do not force, it has to be done this way, this has to be done that way. Schools are already doing that. Let us allow our children to go back at home to at least freely explore the things which they want to do. Let them be free mentally and discover things for themselves. That will make them better learners. Less teaching, more exploring, less instructing, and unlimited learning. That is the way to go for our students of today. Finally, after I have the slide for this, finally I want to uh, come to the crux of how learning exactly happens for all of us and why did I talk about teaching without learning, the sure shot pathway through which learning actually happens. Uh, Mr. Hanif, can we have the slideshow? Now, this is something which I want to show you. Yes. Without that, it will just be words and you will not be able to fully comprehend. So start your thoughts. Imagine this. When you first, the next slide, go to the second last slide, please. Next, next. Stages of learning slide. Next, next. Yes. Stages of learning. Yes. So when we first tried to drive a car, what happens? We change gears, we look up, we look at the side mirrors, we look at the rear mirror, we look at our speed gauge. We are trying to do so many things. Before even we went to a trainer or to a car, to basically a driving school, we did not even know that uh, how difficult it is or what does it take for driving. So we were unconsciously incompetent at driving. Once you sit over there with the trainer, you become very conscious about your incompetence. In the first couple of days, it feels like, what on earth? How difficult is this? How do people do it so easily? When you learn a cycle, when you learn a car, it takes enormous amount of energy to create those neural pathways on what you need to actually do to be able to execute it. That is the stage of conscious incompetence. You know that you are incompetent to do this. Then comes the sweet stage of conscious competence. That now you are conscious that you know it. You may not be expert at it, but you know it. You're conscious about it, and that is the time you love to flaunt. That is the time you love driving. You want to do a lot of driving and you want to feel good about yourself to the point where you finally reach unconscious competence level. You are completely lost in your thoughts. You are looking at the road, you are changing the gear, you are pressing the accelerator, you are pressing the clutch, you are pressing the brake, you are taking care of the mirror, you are doing everything without even flinching, without even thinking too much. So you have reached the level of learning called unconscious competence. And this unconscious competence always comes when you are learning, not when you are taught. You cannot become unconsciously competent in anything which is taught to you. You will only become unconsciously competent in something which you have learned and you have practiced over time and you have become extremely good in it. So I would like to uh, conclude my session with this message that let us all try to reach this unconscious level of competence to all the learnings in our life and be lifelong learners and never ever stop learning. I am Dnyanesh Golatkar. I am an academic mentor and I guide teenagers in the right direction where they can discover themselves better and become better learners. My contact details were there on the previous slide. I would love to hear from you and I would love to answer any of your questions if you are interested in knowing more about me or about what I do. Thank you very much. Over to you, Mr. Amin.
Hello, sir. It was very excellent session, sir. So initially, as viewers, and we all thought, ke, how it will be learning without teaching, but by listening to your session, we got more confident and we got basic everything. So हम जब से छोटे थे बड़े हो गए तो हम चलना कैसा सीखा, how we learn without any help, without any teaching. So it was an excellent session, sir. And dear viewers, there is some internet issue. I'm really sorry for that.
No problem, no
Satish,
problem. I guess we could continue without that.
sir, session was very excellent. We all viewers of KT, viewers of this YouTube, even myself, my team, everybody will thankful for you because you have given new tricks and new ideas in regular life. What we are facing the problem, it will be very helpful to us and very much. Thank you, viewers. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everybody. Have a nice day.